for someday? Ready to finally start living your best life right now?
You're in the right place. I'm David.
And I'm Wendy.
And this is the David and Wendy podcast. We're your life coaches here to move you from the excuses to action.
From mastering your mindset to finding real joy, we're keeping it real, raw, and maybe just a little ridiculous.
Let's get into it, Wendy.
Let's go, David.
Welcome back to the David and Wendy podcast. Today's episode is about how to grow your self-respect and self-integrity.
Yes, well, hello, everyone. Like David just mentioned, this week we're discussing how to grow self-respect and self-integrity. So, oftentimes, as we do on our podcast here, we start with a definition. So, I'm going to start with a definition for each of these key phrases. And according to ChatGPT, a concise definition of self-respect is this: self-respect is the belief and unconditional acceptance that you have inherent value in the practice of treating yourself in ways that reflect that value. And then the other phrase that we're focusing on is self-integrity. And what it says about self-integrity, this refers to the person's sense of themselves as being good, moral, and capable of living according to their values. It's often discussed in research on how people maintain a positive moral self-image. So there's the definition.
Sounds like it's kind of like self-respect is the perspective you come from when interacting with yourself. And self-integrity is the perspective you come from when interacting with the world.
Yeah, that's a much easier way to digest that. Thank you, David.
Yeah. So, well, in my opinion, it's self-integrity is typically born of and can follow self-respect. But in the case of people pleasers, they can have low self-respect and high self-integrity because they believe in treating the world well, but they don't feel they're deserving of the same from themselves or from others.
Yeah. So to be clear, if I'm understanding what you're saying, is a person can have high self-integrity by doing what's right according to the world's standards, I guess, always honest, having
Right.
morals and values and that align with the world's Yeah, I just said that, like that align with the world's standards. And yet they could have a low self-respect by not having clear boundaries or doing what others always want and not considering their own thoughts, opinions, or desires in the whole situation.
Right, exactly. Or at least that's my current working understanding, right? It's coming from that automatic processing or programming that happens just under the surface, which typically outside of awareness that runs our life experience, right? We run from our program, which is just our program is just a collection of thoughts, whether they're positive, supportive thoughts or negative, counter thoughts. We just simply accept that underlying program as our reality, and not so much as our reality, but as the reality, right? We think everybody else is operating from the same place. We assume, but our reality only applies to us. So
right. So it's almost like you have to have an awareness, otherwise you don't even realize that that's where you're coming from, I guess.
Yeah, the conscious mind is bumping along the surface of the water, which the surface of the water is influenced by everything underneath. We just don't pay attention to it unless we do.
Right.
But this, wanting to do the right thing and not taking care of your own feelings, right? You can see how this can create some tension and even resentment. And at the most, burnout, right? When you're always trying to do the right thing and you're putting yourself aside to make sure that you're doing things, you're getting things done. Not that you wouldn't work long, hard hours, but it's all mindset. It's all where you're coming from.
Hmm.
If you're enjoying doing it, or you see the benefit of doing it for yourself and others, then that's fine. If you're just doing it because, oh, I want this person to like me or make sure
Mm,
I stay in good graces or whatever,
mm.
same action, right? Same thing going on, just different mindset.
Yes, absolutely. I'm familiar with that.
I think we all are at some point. But it puts these people in conflict with themselves, wanting to do the right thing for others, but excluding themselves from being treated well b- by both themselves and others. And it can be a tough place to come from. And as we become more aware of this process, we can start to realize that we have done things that are helpful to and supportive of others, and that we deserve our own self-respect, right? We
Mm.
deserve to take care of ourselves. And I would say first and foremost, because when we take care of ourselves and we feel self-fulfilled, I think we come from a much deeper well to give to others.
Oh,
um,
yes.
so as we grow our self-respect, we notice that the benefit of that is that we will notice the people around us start to respect us more as well. It's an
Mm.
interesting process.
It is, and I know about this firsthand. Yeah, I mean, as we talked about in the last episode, I was definitely a people pleaser, and as you mentioned above, there, by excluding my own self and my values, yeah, you develop these resentments, and you I found my well being drained and
Mm-hmm.
not able to give like I wanted to. So
Exactly.
yeah, so if you were a person, who considered yourself a people pleaser, or even someone else has called you that, chances are you lacked self respect. And I know for myself, I can speak honestly that I did. I lacked self respect. I didn't realize it that that's what I was doing, but I was, because I wasn't considering my own self. But mostly in the areas of setting boundaries and sharing how or what you feel about situations. You just kind of go with the flow and let the other person do what or dictate kind of what's going on. But the first step, like we keep saying, is awareness, right? Like everything
Right.
we do.
Yeah.
As you become aware that you're lacking this self respect, you're now beginning that process of gaining self respect. I mean, just having the awareness is the first step, right? So I'm
Right.
sure you're asking, well, how do I do that? How do gain that self respect? And it really can happen in several ways, but most often I hear people say they start by setting boundaries that emphasize their own wants, desires, and ideas rather than just the other person's. It doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful to them, but just also including yourself in that, especially in the thought process of, you know, um,
Right.
yeah. Another way of gaining self respect is the notion that it's okay to say no if something doesn't feel right. And this is honoring your own wants, needs, and desires. But with that, I know people
Mm-hmm.
pleasers, I've had this said to me so many occasions. They just can't say no. I've heard them say, even if they really don't want to do something, they do it because they don't know how to say no. And oftentimes it's at their own expense. Like they end up lacking peace around their decision. They're complaining about it or just kicking themselves, right?
Right. Yes.
So I recommend, you start this practice of saying no with something little or small or something that's not that big of a deal, something that might be less scary than trying it on someone who you have struggled with in the past to say no to. And once again, I've experienced this myself personally. And once you start it, it does get easier. um,
Absolutely.
but the other thing you can do is ask yourself, what if the roles were reversed? Like if you asked someone to do something or help you with a situation and they, were said they were unable to do it, think about how would you react or, what would you say? I know for some it might depend on well, why were they unable to help me? Maybe they have a prior commitment and, they can't get out of that, or they have to honor that because they're honoring themselves, right? Or it could be that they just do not want to do it. But my guess is you'd be okay. You would be say something like, okay, I understand, but a deeper lying, beautiful thing is happening here, right? And perhaps it's a very important life lesson that this person's modeling for you what a boundary looks like. Imagine that as a people pleaser. you know, um, so as you go into a situation where you may have to say no, remember how you responded or you reacted or how you felt, when you were told by another person that they couldn't do something. You were fine with it, right? You got over it or you quickly moved on. But I, and David and I have reflected on this, even more importantly, that person showed you what having boundaries and self respect looks like, you know. And boy, does that feel invigorating or like, wow, I can do this, what I used to think was a hard thing. Like the really, I mean, it's really
Right.
the really cool part here is that I think I mentioned it earlier, is the more you practice doing this, it really does get easier. And I can honestly say that because the first time I did it, I was terrified. And then the next time, a little less and a little less. And then now I'm like, because I'm kind when I say I can't do something or, because I
Hmm.
respect myself now more. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, we will say this over and over because this is how you get there with like everything else in life. Practice makes better. And easier too. And it's the what starting calling the persistent consistent or the consistent persistent practice, right?
Love that.
It, you just add it, if you can do it once a day, that's good, but just keep, you know,
Mhm.
keep practicing, keep and increasing practice as often you can, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right, right. And with that practice, I know David and I have both reflected on this because we've done it. We've caught ourselves. You'll catch yourself after you've done something. You're like, wait,
Right.
nope, that's not, I'm not respecting myself there. So how can I change that and make it better? But yeah,
And don't beat yourself up about that either. Just
exactly.
see it like
Yep.
be happy that you caught it. It's
Ex-
okay that you caught it
yes.
afterwards because before you weren't catching it at all. So,
Exactly. You and I have celebrated that. We're like, ha, look at that. This is a
right, right,
great,
right,
I caught myself.
right.
Well, this is the end of our podcast today, but we would like to mention we'd like to invite you, our listeners, to tell us your thoughts around building self respect and self integrity, or even on the topic of people pleasing. If you want to tell us in the comments, or if it feels more comfortable, email us, with any questions or clarifications that you may be seeking
Right.
on this topic.
So yeah, this brings us to our topic for next week, which is does your gut speak to you? All right. That's the show for this week. We hope you are feeling motivated like you're ready to take on the world.
If you got value today, do us a huge favor. Like and subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people just like you.
You can find all our info in the show notes. Connect with us at our website, thedavidandwendypodcast.com.
We'll see you next week. And remember, always be kind, loving, and compassionate to everyone you meet.